Zuri was born during the quiet hour of dawn, when the sky was pale and the world was still deciding whether to wake. She entered the world with soft eyes, a gentle laugh, and hands that always reached for light. The village midwives said she was a blessing. But blessings only mattered when a mother wanted them. Langa did not. From the moment Zuri could walk, she learned to move silently. Her mother's footsteps were storms she always tried to avoid. Langa was not violent, not openly cruel, but she was cold, and coldness can freeze a child in ways a beating never could. She fed Zuri but never embraced her. Spoke to her but never listened. Looked at her but never saw her. People whispered that something hardened Langa long before Zuri was born, but whatever it was, she carried it like a blade, sharp, hidden, and ready. Zuri's gentleness irritated her. Her laughter annoyed her. Her dreams angered her. "You are too soft," Langa would say. "You will bring nothing but weight to this house." But Zuri tried anyway. She cleaned. She cooked. She fetched water. She carved tiny wooden figures during the few moments she was alone, shaping animals, birds, and smiling faces from scraps of branches. It was her only joy, her little world of imagination carved into life by her hands. Whenever she held up a carved bird or a wooden lion to show her mother, Langa barely glanced. "What use is this?" she said once. "Dreams do not feed a household." Zuri whispered, "But dreams make life worth living." Langa slapped the wooden toy from her hands. The older Zuri grew, the more distant her mother became. Villagers would compliment Zuri's kindness, her skill with carving, her ability to calm crying children, and every praise landed on Langa like an insult. It should have been her daughter's pride. Instead, it became her mother's envy. Then one night everything changed. A man arrived at their village, a merchant draped in deep blue robes, riding a horse unlike any the villagers had ever seen. His caravans carried spices, jewelry, silks, and coins. People treated him like a man blessed by the ancestors. His name was Karu. He stayed in the village only for the night, requesting lodging and conversation with those who had goods to trade. He spoke softly, observed quietly. And he noticed what others ignored. Zuri sweeping the yard at dusk, humming to herself as she carved a small wooden bird. He approached her. "You carve well for someone so young." Zuri blushed. "It's nothing. Just something to keep my hands busy." "Hands that create are never useless," he said. Those words alone warmed her more than anything her mother ever said. But Langa watched Karu watching Zuri, and something twisted in her chest. Opportunity. Profit. Escape from responsibility she never wanted. That night, after the village slept, Langa went to Karu's lodging. Whispers floated through the thin walls, but no one knew what was said. Only that Karu left before dawn, and Zuri was nowhere to be found. The villagers thought she must be fetching water early. But her bucket sat where she left it the night before. Her wooden toys lay scattered on her sleeping mat. Her carved bird, the one she cherished, rested on her pillow as if placed there after she had already been taken. When the sun rose, Langa told the village a single sentence. She ran away. No one believed it. But no one questioned her either. Far from the village, Zuri rode in Karu's caravan, eyes swollen with tears, clutching the little wooden bird he allowed her to bring. She had asked him why she was leaving. He said only what Langa told him. She said you were unwanted. She said you slowed her life. She said she would rather you be useful somewhere else. Zuri broke quietly. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She just lowered her head and let the wind dry her tears. At 10 years old, she learned a truth no child should have to learn. That a mother's heart can sometimes be smaller than the world she brings a child into. And as the village disappeared behind her, Zuri realized something else. Her childhood had been sold, and she didn't even know the price. The caravan traveled for days, rolling through valleys and dusty plains while Zuri sat in the back of a wagon, silent, small, forgotten. Karu wasn't unkind, but he wasn't warm either. He treated Zuri like someone who belonged to a transaction. He fed her, clothed her, and kept her close, but he never asked if she missed home. Never asked if she wanted to return. Never asked why her eyes looked like wilted leaves every morning. On the 7th night of their journey, they reached a bustling settlement, larger than any village Zuri had ever imagined. Clay houses towered over the marketplace. Lanterns flickered like tiny stars hung low to the earth. Children ran through the streets. Laughter drifted through the air. Everything felt alive. Except her. Karu brought her to a tall woman draped in gold fabric, her hair braided with stones. She looked Zuri up and down like someone examining a goat before buying it. "This is her?" she asked. Karu nodded. "Strong, quiet, obedient. She will work well for you." Zuri's breath trembled. Work, for her? The woman smiled, not kindly. Don't worry, little one. You will have shelter. Food. Tasks to keep you useful. Useful. The same word her mother used. Zuri felt the ground shift beneath her. Karoo had not saved her. He had delivered her. Coins clinked as the woman paid him. Heavy, shining, final. Karoo didn't even look at Zuri when he walked away. Just turned, mounted his horse, and disappeared into the night as if she had been nothing more than cargo. The woman's home was a grand compound with carved gates and multiple courtyards. But beauty does not make kindness. Zuri learned that quickly. She cleaned floors until her knees ached. Fetched water until her arms trembled. Cooked until her eyes stung from smoke. The other servants barely spoke to her. They had been here long enough to know that attachment could be painful. The woman, whose name was Nyasha, expected perfection. A mistake meant no supper. A delay meant harsh words. A tear meant a beating. Nyasha's daughter, Tandy, was even worse. She took pleasure in mocking Zuri, stealing her blankets at night, throwing dirt in her washing water, breaking the small wooden bird Zuri had carved so carefully. When Zuri cried, Tandy laughed. When will you grow a spine? Cry baby. Zuri tried to hold on to hope, but hope is heavy when carried alone. Some nights she sat in the corner of the servants' quarters, hugging her knees, trying to remember the sound of her village's river, the scent of her mother's cooking, the warmth of her childhood wooden toys. But memory was a cruel friend. It showed her everything she lost and nothing she could gain. Yet something inside her refused to die. One afternoon, while scrubbing the courtyard stones, Zuri felt a strange pull toward the wall near Nyasha's private room. A whisper, soft like wind pressing against an old door. She looked around. No one was near. But the whisper came again, pressing against her thoughts. Not a word. Not a voice. Just a feeling. A warning. Moments later, Nyasha stormed into the courtyard. Her eyes wild. Her hands shaking. A priceless bracelet was missing and she blamed Zuri. You were scrubbing near my room, Nyasha spat. Where did you hide it? Zuri shook her head desperately. I didn't take anything, I swear. Nyasha lifted her hand. Zuri braced for a blow. But just then one of the younger servants cried out, Madam! The bracelet, by the water jug. Tandy must have dropped it. Nyasha froze. For a moment, the truth hovered between them like a fragile thread. She knew Tandy often caused trouble. She knew Zuri was not a thief. But admitting that meant admitting she had been wrong. And Nyasha never admitted wrong. Watch yourself, girl, she said coldly. Next time you may not escape punishment. She walked away without apology. Zuri exhaled shakily. That whisper, that strange pull, it had guided her. Protected her. She didn't understand it, but she felt it again, soft, persistent, like the world telling her she wasn't as powerless as they believed. Months passed. Zuri grew older, stronger. Her hands hardened from work, but her spirit sharpened. Each humiliation carved depth into her heart. Each injustice taught her to see what others hid. She learned to read people, to sense danger before it arrived, to silence her pain without killing her light. But one truth never left her. Her mother had traded her away. Her childhood had been sold. Her innocence torn from her hands. Sometimes she wondered, did her mother regret it? Did she miss her? Did she even remember her? But the answer always echoed back in silence. Zuri did not know that miles away, Langa's decision was unraveling in ways she could not predict. She did not know that the man who bought her was not who he pretended to be. She did not know that the coins exchanged for her would become the very path to vengeance. All she knew was this. She was alone. She had been sold. And yet, she was still alive. Still listening. Still learning. Still waiting. Because even in her darkest hours, there was one thing she felt again and again. The story was not over. Not for her. Not for her mother. And not for the buyer who thought he owned her fate. The world had only begun to turn. Amma was only 7 when the deal was made. The morning had smelled of wet earth and boiling porridge, but inside the house her world was collapsing. Her mother, Laura, wore the same expression she always used when she did something unforgivable, blank, cold, distant. She didn't look at Amma as she spoke to the stranger in the doorway. The man was tall, dressed in foreign cloth, carrying a leather pouch that jingled with coins. He looked at Amma the way people look at something they want to own. Amma clutched her little carved wooden doll, her only toy, her only friend, and waited for someone to tell her this was a mistake. But Laura only said, "Take her. I'm done." The words hit Amma harder than a slap. The man nodded, handed over the pouch and took Amma by the wrist. She screamed for her mother, cried until her voice broke, but Laura didn't turn around, not once. She simply counted the coins with cold satisfaction. Outside, the sky dimmed as if the world itself disapproved. Amma was dragged away, her doll falling into the dust behind her. She watched her home shrink, then disappear behind trees and hills, and with it, every piece of childhood she ever had. The buyer didn't speak much. But his silence was heavy. Dangerous. Each step further from home felt like stepping into a deeper, darker place. By the time the sun disappeared, Amma had stopped crying. She had learned her first hard truth. Her mother didn't lose her. Her mother sold her. And the buyer, he wasn't done with her yet. The man's name was Jero, though Amma learned it only by hearing others whisper it with fear. Jero didn't treat her like a daughter or even like a servant. He treated her like an object, silent, useful, invisible. He made her grind herbs, fetch water, clean tools she didn't understand. He watched her with sharp, calculating eyes, as if waiting for something inside her to wake. Amma didn't know what. But every time she made a mistake, spilled water, broke a twig, breathed too loudly, his anger cracked like a whip across the air. He never struck her, but his words bruised all the same. I didn't buy you for weakness. I saw fire in your eyes that day. Don't make me think I wasted my coin. Fire? Amma felt nothing but fear. But Jero kept staring at her as though she carried something he had been hunting for years. One night, after she had finished sorting roots, she overheard him speaking with a traveler. She's the one? The traveler asked. Jero nodded. The child born with the mark of intuition. Her mother didn't know what she carried. Amma froze. A mark? Intuition? What did that mean? The traveler leaned forward. And when she matures? Jero's voice dropped, shadowed with ambition. She will dream the future. She will see paths no one else can. And when she does, I will be the one to shape her destiny. Amma's heart thudded painfully. He hadn't bought her to raise her. He had bought her to use her. She crept back to her sleeping mat, trembling. All her life she thought she was unwanted. Now she realized she was wanted, but for a reason more frightening. Amma stared at the ceiling, the truth settling like stone in her chest. Jero wasn't protecting her. He was waiting, watching, preparing. Because one day her dreams would awaken, and when they did, he intended to control every part of her destiny. Amma barely slept after hearing Jero's conversation with the traveler. Fear curled inside her like a cold fist. But beneath the fear, something else trembled awake. She kept seeing a faint shimmer on her palm every time lightning flashed through the small window. A glow so soft she thought she imagined it. When dawn came, her heart still thudded with unease. Jero watched her more closely that day. He asked her to organize jars that didn't need organizing. He made her repeat tasks she already did perfectly. He walked behind her silently, as if expecting something to erupt out of her at any moment. Amma felt like she was walking on a thin rope over darkness. By evening she was exhausted. Her hands trembled. Her chest felt tight. And her mind kept echoing the same terrifying truth. He's waiting for my gift to wake up. And I don't even know what it is. She sat on her mat, hugging her knees, trying not to cry. That was when the dreams began, not with sleep but with a pulse. A vibration in her chest. A flicker behind her eyes. A whisper brushing her ear like a wind with no source. Amma? She jerked upright. The room was empty. The whisper came again, softer this time, like water slipping through fingers. You have been quiet for too long. Amma pressed a hand to her chest. Her heartbeat felt wrong, too fast, too strong, like something ancient was trying to push its way out. The air around her thickened. The shadows on the walls stretched. Her palm began to glow, truly glow, like blue fire beneath her skin. She gasped. The glow crawled up her wrist, swirling like tiny stars. She tried to pull her hand away from the light as if it didn't belong to her. Then everything changed. The walls dissolved. The mat beneath her vanished. The air fell silent. And she was standing in a vast, endless plain of shimmering mist. The mist swirled, forming shapes, faces she didn't know, voices she had heard only in her dreams. It was beautiful and terrifying, like stepping into the world behind a mirror. A woman's figure emerged from the mist, tall, graceful, wrapped in a cloak of silver rain. Her eyes glowed like moonlit water. Amma felt her knees weaken. She clutched her glowing hand. Who are you? The woman smiled gently. Her voice was the same whisper Amma had heard moments earlier. I am the memory your mother feared. The truth she buried. The path she broke. She extended a hand. and I am the one who watched over you when she did not. Amma's breath caught in her throat. Are you a spirit? A guide, the woman said. To the ones born with the sight of futures. The dream bearers. The seers. Amma staggered backward. No, that can't be me. I'm just. You are not just anything, the woman said, stepping closer. You were born from a long lineage of vision walkers. Every third generation, one child rises with the ability to dream what others will live, to hear truth through silence, to feel storms before they arrive. Amma shivered. But why didn't my mother tell me? The woman's expression shifted, pain flickered in her eyes. She feared your gift, feared the responsibility, feared the attention. Some hearts choose fear over courage. She paused. And when the gift stirs before its time, it can frighten even those who love deeply. Amma's eyes burned. She never loved me. The spirit tilted her head. Perhaps not in the way you needed. But she protected herself the only way she knew, even at the cost of you. Amma swallowed hard. And Jero? Why did he buy me? The spirit's face darkened. Because he knows what you are. He has spent years searching for a dream bearer he could mold, own, use. He hopes to wield your visions like weapons. Amma's stomach twisted. I don't want these powers. I don't want visions. I just want my life. You cannot refuse what is already in your blood, the woman whispered. But you can choose what you do with it. The mist around them suddenly churned, rising, spinning, glowing. The spirit lifted her hand. Amma, it is time. Amma shook her head. Time for what? For your gift to awaken fully. Before she could run, the mist surged toward her like a wave. It wrapped around her arms, her chest, her face. She gasped as the world exploded into flashes. Women crying. Children laughing. A fire burning. A man shouting her name. Rain falling on her shoulders. A village cheering. Jero screaming. A path opening in the forest. Her older self standing tall, shining. Visions, hundreds, rushed through her like a river breaking a dam. She felt herself falling, drowning in futures, swallowing memories that weren't hers. Then everything stilled. The spirit touched her forehead. Rise, Amma. Amma opened her eyes. She was back in her room, but the world was different. The air seemed sharper, clearer. The moonlight vibrated with meaning. Every sound, every breath, every heartbeat felt connected to her. And her palm. Her palm now held a symbol glowing like silver fire, a spiral of light, delicate and powerful. The mark Jero had spoken of. The mark of the dream bearers. Amma stared at it with trembling fingers. She had awakened. Not because Jero wanted it. Not because her mother feared it. But because the gift had chosen its moment. A moment where she finally understood one thing. She was no longer the child who had been sold. She was the girl whose dreams now shaped destiny. When Amma woke the next morning, the world felt heavier, as if every breath she took stirred the air differently. The symbol on her palm still glowed faintly, pulsing like a second heartbeat. She kept it hidden beneath the sleeve of her dress, though she could feel energy flickering beneath her skin, restless and alive. Jero noticed something immediately. He didn't greet her with his usual fake smile. He didn't comment on her slowness or scold her for the uneven sweep of the courtyard. He just watched her too closely. His eyes darted to her hands, her face, her footsteps. It was as if he sensed something invisible clinging to her like a second shadow. Amma tried to work as usual. She washed the clay bowls, fetched water, sorted herbs and swept the floor. But everything felt wrong. Every time she touched water, it rippled without her moving it. When she walked past a basket of dried leaves, they rustled as though greeting her. The air hummed around her, vibrating with a strange sensitivity. She kept glancing toward the door. Every instinct screamed that she couldn't stay here anymore. But fear wrapped around her spine. Where would she go? What would happen if she stepped outside? Could she even control what was awakening inside her? That afternoon, a storm gathered over the village, dark clouds swelling across the sky like bruises. People rushed to bring their goods indoors. Chickens ran squawking under huts. Mothers called their children inside. Amma stood in the doorway, frozen, staring at the growing storm. The spirit woman's voice echoed in her memory. You cannot refuse what is already in your blood. But you can choose what you do with it. A sharp wind blew, whipping her hair across her face. For the first time in her life, the storm did not frighten her. But Jero came up behind her, grabbing her shoulder. You feel it, don't you? He hissed. His breath smelled of bitterness and fear. You woke last night. Amma flinched. I don't know what you mean. He squeezed her arm until she winced. Don't lie to me. I saw the light under your door. I heard you whispering to someone. He leaned close. What did you see? Amma's heart pounded. Nothing. I was dreaming. You were dreaming the way they dream, he said, voice shaking. Your mother had that gift. She hid it. She feared it. She sold you because she thought it would bring doom on our house. Amma's breath faltered. You knew what she did to me, and you still took me? Jero's jaw clenched. A gift like yours is power. And power belongs in the hands of someone who can use it. Not a frightened child. A streak of lightning tore across the sky, illuminating his face, twisted, greedy, desperate. Amma pulled away from him. I'm leaving. Jero grabbed her wrist, yanking her back. You will go nowhere, he shouted. You are mine until your gift blooms fully. Then you will see what fate I've chosen for you. The storm broke above them, thunder crashing like a drum. Amma felt her pulse race. The mark on her palm burned, hot, bright, alive. She pushed Jero away, and the air rippled around her like a shockwave. He stumbled back, shocked. You did that without touching me. Amma looked at her palm, glowing beneath the sleeve. Stay away from me. But he lunged again, trying to seize her arm. Don't test me, girl. I will not lose what I bought. Lightning struck the tree behind them with a deafening crack. The ground trembled. The wind howled. The rain began to fall in fierce, heavy sheets. Amma's fear snapped. She ran. She dashed across the courtyard, slipping in the mud, sprinting toward the forest path behind the village. Jero screamed after her, but she didn't look back. The storm seemed to clear a path for her. Branches bent aside, rain parted around her, thunder rolled like a warning behind her. Her feet pounded the earth, her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. She did not care where she was going. She only knew that she had to escape or she would lose herself forever. As she reached the forest edge, the storm lit the sky again, illuminating the wet leaves and trembling branches. Lightning struck ahead of her, bright, blinding, but strangely welcoming. It wasn't closing the path. It was showing it. She slowed, panting, her chest heaving. The rain softened around her, falling gently instead of the angry downpour behind her. It was as if the storm was guiding her, protecting her. She stepped into the trees. For the first time in her life, she wasn't hiding. She wasn't running from pain or fear or punishment. She was running toward something. Toward freedom. Toward truth. Toward the destiny her blood had whispered about since she was born. Behind her, Jero's shouts faded. Ahead of her, the forest glowed with a strange, soft light, her path. And Amma walked into the stormlit world for the first time, terrified, shaking. But determined. She was not property. She was not a mistake. She was the dream bearer. And destiny had finally come to claim her. The villagers noticed her before she even reached them. A streak of silver light wove through the forest as Amma approached, carried on the wind like a whisper no one could ignore. Birds scattered, the air vibrated, and even the river seemed to pause as if it too were holding its breath. By the time she stepped into the village square, people had gathered, curious, frightened, and unsure. Mothers clutched their children, farmers set aside their tools, and elders squinted at the figure in the stormlit mist. Amma's cloak was soaked, her hair plastered to her face, but her eyes burned with something no fear could extinguish. Jero's absence was notable. Word had spread of her flight, but no one had expected her to return so soon, and not empty-handed. Amma lifted her palms. The glowing symbols carved across her skin shimmered like fire and water combined, a living map of her awakening power. Raindrops hovered around her, suspended in the air, reflecting the gold and silver light of the fading storm. They twisted into shapes, forming visions no one but the gifted could read. The villagers gasped as they saw fragments of what had happened. The cruelty, the betrayal, the moments of her suffering, but also the courage that had carried her through. The visions spun in the air, twisting and snapping like the threads of a story being unraveled before their eyes. A group of children stepped forward first, drawn by the gentle hum that resonated from Amma. One small boy reached out, and the raindrops leapt to his hand, swirling around him harmlessly. He laughed. The first sound of pure joy in the crowd since the storm began. Amma turned toward the elders. I have come not to punish but to show truth, she said, her voice steady despite the storm that still lingered in the air. Every lie told, every hand that struck, every word meant to silence me has left a mark. And now the world must see it. The raindrops shimmered and twisted into scenes of Jero's manipulation, how he had kept her mother from helping her, how he had sought to control her gift, how he had bought and sold dreams like they were coins. The villagers saw him whispering into the ears of merchants, bribing officials, and hiding the records of Amma's lineage. Shock rippled through the crowd. Faces turned pale. Eyes widened. Murmurs spread like fire. It's true, all of it is true. Amma raised her voice and the wind carried it. I have been beaten for dreaming, sold for fear, and hidden for envy. But the rain saw all of it. The rain refused to let my story die. The clouds above darkened again, but this time the storm did not threaten. It was protective, a shield around her as she stepped forward into the center of the square. She spread her arms and the suspended raindrops multiplied, forming arcs of silver light that mirrored her every motion. Each drop carried a memory, a truth, a witness to what had been hidden from the world. The villagers began to understand. They were not seeing magic in the abstract. They were seeing history raw and unfiltered. They were seeing the life of a girl who had been treated as property, a tool, a pawn. A farmer stepped forward, shaking. All these years, we thought. Yes, Amma said, her voice rising above the murmurs. You thought you could hide the truth. You thought cruelty could erase me. But dreams are stronger than fear. Dreams live on when bones break and hearts shatter. The rain around her fell gently onto the villagers now, soaking their clothes without harm. Each droplet seemed to carry a memory of kindness, a whisper of hope, and a warning to those who would harm the innocent. An old woman wept openly. She survived, she truly survived. And more than survived, Amma said, turning toward the horizon. I have risen. I have become more than what they tried to make me. I am the voice they could not silence. The villagers, moved by her presence and the storm-lit visions, began to chant her name softly at first. Amma. Amma. It grew louder, a chorus of awe and recognition. The children repeated it with unrestrained joy. Mothers whispered it as a blessing. Elders nodded, shaking their heads in amazement. Even the men, hardened by years of work and silence, felt the weight of her presence and bowed slightly. From the forest's edge a shadow stirred. Jero had followed her, attempting to reclaim what he had bought. But the raindrops now formed a barrier of silver light between him and the crowd. He reached toward her, but the storm's wind pushed him back. You cannot touch what belongs to its own destiny, Amma said calmly. Her voice resonated like the pulse of the storm itself. You tried to own my life, my dreams, my gift. But I am no longer yours and I will never be. Jero fell to his knees, fear overtaking anger. The villagers stepped back, realizing the power of the girl they had doubted, the girl they had feared might perish. Amma lowered her hands slowly. The raindrops floated downward, returning to the earth gently, like a blessing from the sky itself. The storm dissipated, leaving behind the clean scent of rain and the warmth of light breaking through the clouds. Silence filled the square. The villagers looked around, awestruck and transformed. They had witnessed not vengeance, but a revelation. A girl who had been beaten for dreaming had turned her pain into purpose. She had become the living testament that courage and resilience could not be crushed. And so, her name was spoken aloud, carried by the wind and remembered by all. Amma, the dream bearer. The girl who had survived, the storm that had refused to die, the destiny that had finally come to claim her. After the storm had passed and the villagers had returned to their homes, Amma stood alone in the square. The ground was slick with rain, mud squelching beneath her feet, and the scent of wet earth filled the air. The glow of the markings on her palms had faded slightly, but the energy within her remained steady, pulsing like a heartbeat that would never cease. For the first time in her life she felt free. Not free in the sense that no one could harm her, but free because she had claimed her own life, her own destiny. She had endured the blows, the ridicule, the isolation. She had been beaten for dreaming, sold for fear, hidden because of envy, and yet here she stood, stronger, wiser, and more determined than anyone could have imagined. The villagers began to emerge, drawn to her presence as though some invisible thread was pulling them closer. Their faces reflected awe, respect, and a new understanding. They no longer saw her as the timid, silenced girl of yesterday. They saw her as a force, a living testament to resilience and hope. Children ran toward her, reaching up with tiny hands. Amma, teach us to dream. She smiled, bending down to meet them at eye level. Dreams are not only for you, she said softly. They are your guide, your light when the world turns dark. Protect them, cherish them, and let them grow. An elder approached, her steps hesitant but deliberate. You have shown us the truth. All these years we looked away. We feared what we did not understand. But you have made us see. Amma's gaze swept across the faces of the crowd. "The truth was never mine alone," she said. "It has always been yours too. Each of you carries it in your heart, the courage to stand, to speak, to act. I am merely a reminder of what is possible when you do not let fear rule you." The villagers nodded, murmuring their agreement. Mothers clutched their children closer, and fathers straightened their backs, inspired by the quiet strength of the girl who had once been beaten for her dreams. Beyond the square, the forest whispered, leaves rustling as if congratulating her. The rain, now soft and gentle, drizzled down in delicate strands, sparkling like silver threads against the sunlight breaking through the dissipating clouds. It was as though the storm itself recognized her triumph. Amma lifted her hands, feeling the lingering energy from the storm, the whispers of the spirits that had protected her. She closed her eyes and allowed herself a moment of peace, a rare luxury in her life of trials. Every scar, every bruise, every sleepless night had led to this moment, the recognition that her dreams were her power and no one could ever take that away again. From the village edge, a small voice called out, "Will you stay with us?" Amma opened her eyes, seeing the hopeful gaze of a young girl who reminded her of herself. Amma knelt, placing a gentle hand on the child's shoulder. "I will stay," she said. "Not to be your master but to guide, to teach, to protect. The world is cruel but it is also full of beauty. And dreams will always lead us through the darkness." Word of her presence spread quickly. Travelers who had once ignored the village returned, spreading tales of the girl who had been beaten and abandoned yet had risen like the storm itself. Merchants, pilgrims and wanderers came, seeking her counsel, her guidance, her blessing. The people began calling her the Dream Bearer. Not because she wielded magic or power, but because she carried a vision of hope that could not be silenced. Amma established a small school at the edge of the village. She taught children to follow their hearts, to embrace their imagination, and to face cruelty with courage. She trained young women and men to stand against injustice, to speak truth boldly, and to defend those who had none. The lessons were simple yet profound: courage, resilience, and the unwavering belief in one's dreams. Over time, Amma became more than a guide. She became a symbol. Her name echoed through the hills and valleys, whispered by those who had witnessed her rise, told in songs and stories by those who could not forget the girl who had been beaten for dreaming. Every time a storm gathered, the villagers would look to the sky, remembering the rain that had refused to let her die. And when lightning split the clouds, they would smile, knowing that the dream bearer walked among them, a living testament to the strength of spirit and the power of destiny. Amma herself would watch the children practice their lessons, laughter ringing in the air like silver bells. She would feel the lingering presence of the storm, the spirits who had protected her, and the energy of dreams unbroken. She understood now that her life was not just her own, but a beacon for all who had been silenced, beaten, or cast aside. And in the quiet moments, when the rain tapped gently against the roof of her home, Amma would whisper to herself, a vow and a reminder, "They beat me for dreaming, but the dream became my destiny. And I will never let it fade." The word of Amma's return had spread like wildfire, carried by villagers, travelers, and even merchants who had once scoffed at the girl they believed was powerless. By the 9th day, the village square was crowded with those seeking her guidance, blessings, and counsel. Every ear strained to hear the whispers of the dream bearer, every eye fixed on the girl who had once been beaten for daring to dream. Amma walked through the crowd, her presence calm yet commanding. Her eyes, still alight with the storm's memory, scanned the faces before her, not with anger but with clarity. She knew what awaited her, her stepfamily. They had hidden her, silenced her, and tried to erase her existence. Yet here she was, stronger than their cruelty, backed by the rain, the spirits, and the people who now believed in her. Her stepfather, a gaunt man with trembling hands, pushed through the crowd, his face pale and drawn. He could hardly meet her gaze, and every attempt to speak faltered as if his words feared the truth he was about to face. Behind him, her stepsister whispered complaints, tears running down her cheeks, not from sorrow but from the panic of realizing that the child they had tormented had become unstoppable. Amma stopped at the center of the square. Her cloak clung to her, wet from the drizzle that still lingered, and the glowing marks on her palms pulsed faintly, a subtle but undeniable display of the power she now wielded. The villagers held their collective breath. "You hid me," Amma said slowly, her voice even but full of authority. "You struck me, you shamed me, you treated me as though my dreams were worthless. You tried to bury my spirit, believing that your cruelty could define me." The stepfather stammered, trying to deny, to defend, to explain. "Amma." "Silence," she interrupted, her eyes glowing brighter. "Your words are empty. They cannot undo what has been done, and they cannot rewrite the truth. The raindrops hovered around her, shimmering in the sunlight that had begun to pierce the clouds. They formed shapes like living memories, replaying the nights she had been beaten, the days she had been hidden, the moments she had whispered prayers to the rain, asking only for survival. Each image was clear, vivid, undeniable. The villagers gasped, recognizing the injustice they had ignored for so long. Amma extended her palms. The rain remembers. Every strike, every insult, every betrayal has been witnessed. And it has carried my spirit forward. Suddenly the air shifted. Mist rose from the ground, swirling around her stepfamily, wrapping them in the gentle but unyielding force of her presence. They tried to pull away, but the spirits of the rain held them, lifting them slightly from the earth as though the universe itself demanded they face what they had done. The villagers murmured. Children pointed, shouting, "The rain won't let them hide." Amma's stepsister fell to her knees, pleading, but Amma did not raise her voice. She let her silence speak, a quiet power heavier than any storm. "Your fear cannot touch me. Your shame cannot erase me. You will witness the life you tried to destroy rise before your eyes." Her stepfather's hands shook and he dropped to the ground. I was wrong. I see it now." "You see nothing yet," Amma said, her voice cutting through the cold air like sunlight. "What you see now is only the beginning. Every village, every child, every person I touch will carry the story of what you tried to do to me. My dreams were not yours to break. They belong to the world." The villagers, emboldened by her words, began to cheer. The children danced, the elders bowed, and even the merchants who had once doubted her bowed their heads. She was no longer just a girl. She had become a living emblem of courage, resilience, and destiny fulfilled. Her stepfamily remained on the ground, powerless before her. Amma turned to them one last time. "You struck me for dreaming," she said softly but firmly. "But the dream became my destiny. And the world will remember it long after you are gone." The rain, gentle now, fell upon the square. Each drop seemed to carry her name, her story, her power. The villagers whispered it among themselves. Amma, the dream bearer. The title, once just a rumor, had become a legacy. As the sky cleared, the wind carried her voice across the village and beyond. "I have survived. I have risen. I have become what I was always meant to be." And in that moment, her stepfamily understood fully. The girl they had tried to destroy had outlived their cruelty, outshone their fear, and transformed every strike, every insult, and every attempt at silencing into a force that no one could ever diminish. The villagers repeated her name aloud, a chant of respect and awe. "Amma, Amma, Amma." She raised her arms to the sky, letting the last drops of rain fall upon her, and knew that her journey had only begun. The dream that had been beaten into her had become the destiny she had always been meant to claim.